Ta-da. Questions? Yes.
In 5,
In 5.
when is there a slight bend or drop along with the tuck or not?
Yeah. And we'll work on that today
Okay.
if we get that far.
Okay. Because I want to. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do.
Well, you weren't yet supposed to be.
In 5,
Yeah.
with the C curve, is there some point where we're supposed to like reset to neutral? You know, like in Meredith Heaven Earth, at the end of the 7th movement, you reset. Because I feel like I'm continually like opening and, you know, opening the back, opening the front, opening the back, opening the front. At what point do you kind of like let stuff settle down?
No.
Never.
No, because the focus in 5 is beginning to work towards the energy going up the center and down the sides and up the center and down the sides without any pause. So there is no going to neutral in that. No.
Right.
Nick? Bill? Joanne?
Well, my questions were also about 5.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, some of the same things. I think I'm doing 5 too much like I do 2. So that was one of the things I was going to review again this morning. I looked at the video the other day, yesterday. So, yeah,
Okay.
nothing more specific than what I heard Bill and Adam ask.
Okay.
Some of the same things.
Anything for you, Nick?
No, it's already been asked.
Okay. Okay.
We're all in the same boat today.
One question for 4, just to clarify. Last week, rewatching the video, you said that we're either folding or squatting. And in my impression from when we first looked at 4, we start with a fold and then turn it into a squat. Is that
It depends how low you're going and what your range of motion is.
okay?
If you need to allow 4 to begin to squat towards the end of it, that's okay.
Okay,
But it begins as a fold and that's its primary movement.
gotcha. So you're only squatting it.
If you need that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. So I realized that I think I prepared 2 classes for today.
Oh, great.
We'll try not to ask any more questions.
So we are probably not going to get through this stack of notes I have here beside me, but certainly all of the things that you have asked about are things that we will be dealing with in the next class or 2. So you're on the right page. First, to address Joanne's question about the difference between 2 and 5. So with 2, we have bent completely at the bottom,
Mhm.
and then we're straightening all the way to feeling the extent of the etheric body, which is why the palms are slightly up. They're
Okay.
not
Yep.
here,
Uh-huh.
they're here. And then you're bending into this
Mhm.
and straightening out to here.
Yep.
In 4, I mean in 5,
5. Don't confuse.
in 5, remember, and we'll be working some more on this today, but you are closing approximately 30%. And then that 30% remains closed all the way through 5 and 6.
Mm.
Okay, it does not return until you're done with 6.
Okay.
So you have to retain that, and from there, excuse me, within that remaining 70%, you're going to close 70 and open. Within
Uh-huh.
that remaining 70%, which means that all of your movement is reduced.
Yeah.
It's all going to get smaller. So the bends are smaller, the straightening is comparable, and your transition points are not at the bottom and the top. Well, bottom and here. Actually, interestingly enough, they are here and here. So when you have closed about 30%, and then you close a little further, and you continue to close as the arms come up, and then you open to here, not here, but here. And then you close, and you're connecting just like you did it to, that's correct. But you continue that close as the arms come up. And where you come up to it depends on how high you are able to move the energy in your body. Eventually you want it to the crown of the head. It may only get to here or here as you begin, but as that awareness develops, eventually you want that to get all the way to the top of the head. We'll talk some more about it. But notice that when you bend, the arms haven't bent very much because you don't have the same range. So they don't come into here. That movement, bringing the energy up, is here. It's out from the body. It goes out. So that's kind of the difference between 2 and 5. Did that raise a question? To answer your question, Joanne?
She gave a thumbs up.
Oh, did she? Oh, okay. I can't.
Sorry, I'm muted because apparently Bill said that every time I aha you, then I'm the picture that he sees rather than you. So
Oh.
we need to
Well,
see you, David. So, yes.
I will go to the other camera now. I was leaving it on this way
I
for
don't
the
mind muting. I
questions.
do, I do a little gruntal affirmations. So
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I don't want Bill to have to be, even bother or anybody.
Okay, any other
Is-
questions? Yeah. Not at the moment. Okay. So to some degree, we've looked at this transition from 4 to 5, but let's explore it a little more. So transitions are important in general to make sure that when you go from one movement into another, that the chi moving through your body is continuous and not start and stop. Movement 4 was about the right and left channels movement. Movement 5 is about the central channel and the right and left channels. So what's happening is that we're beginning the process of how to go from the right and left channels to the central channel. Now, what we're going to do is to start from the end of movement 4, explaining what are some of the more important points that we want to focus on. The first thing is to remember that when you're doing this, your chest is relaxed down. So you have a continuous feeling of a downward flow going through your chest all the way through to your belly. And as you're finishing movement 4, you are you're condensing, closing everything, including your qua, to 30%. And I'm not sure, I shouldn't probably have said to 30%. You're closing it 30%. Two things are going to occur simultaneously. First, you're going to stretch your back from your spine. And that action of stretching the back from the spine is going to first spread your hands a little and then bring your hands in front of the lower dantian, where they cross to the wrist points, just like we did in movement 2. Number 2, as you do this, continue closing everything 70% and bring the hands up to about mid-torso. The arms keep twisting in as they come to that point. Remember, you really want to have your lower dantian connect directly to your Laogong points. This movement shrinks your whole body, and you should have the feeling of the pulling, of this pulling your feet right into your qua. As you come up, you're going to start pulling energy, stretching your fascia up the inside of your thighs. Then as you begin to open, twisting out, you're going to be straightening and curving your arms out and about halfway down at the sides. Remember to maintain the 30% condensed from when you began the transition. So we've talked about all of this. Does anybody have a question about that? So this brought up a number of other points to be aware of as you're doing this. One of the things when we talk about the back stretching, it's really talking about the scapula moving away from the spine. So when you are condensing, it is beginning, first thing is that your elbows are coming in, but then they're spreading out. So first your scapula come in and then they move out. Okay. So really what I would like you to do is to do one repetition of movement 4, and then do the transition and do one repetition of movement 5. And begin to see if you can feel this. And really open to what you're feeling in your body. I would like to know what you're sensing. Okay. Right? So there are two steps in that transition. So there is, notice, in fact, I'm just observing the two guys that are here at the moment. I'll look at everybody else in a moment. But when you come up to the top of 4, the elbows come in onto that sideline, and that's part of what's starting that movement of the elbows in as you come down. And then there's a real spreading out before you go into the cross and start coming up. So the hands actually separate and then come together just like you did in 2.
Okay, yeah.
Try it again. So go back and do the transition in again. Okay, so clearly I have not communicated well at least one element here of this basic movement. So when you begin to condense and then begin to close, notice that after I have crossed to the wrist points, that those wrist points continue rising and twisting in, and then everything goes out to this point. So when you have gotten to this point in the transition, you are not ready to go up. At that point, you have pulled the energy into your dantian. Now you're going to bring it up the body. So the body continues to sink as the arms come up, twisting in. And then when you feel the energy's gone as high as it can, then everything straightens out. So then when you continue the movement, you're going to do the same thing. You're drawing the energy in to the dantian and bringing it up the body and then out into the side channels and down to the qua. This is a very counterintuitive movement.
Especially after two.
Especially. So 2 and 5 are not the same.
Right, right.
They are totally different. You're doing very different things.
Sometimes when I'm pulling in, this gets tight. Is that too much? Is that a signal that it's pulling in too much?
And so relax your shoulders.
Okay.
So, yes, proportion. So you get to this point, it still has to go. It should not tighten up. It's not because remember that it's these the crossed wrist points that are pulling the energy up through the central channel. So as you bring the energy in to your dantian, then you bring it up and then you separate it out into the sides and down to the qua, and then back in to the dantian and up, and then out and down. So it is a kind of counterintuitive piece. Does anybody not understand what I mean by that?
Can I just ask? Sure. Just to clarify, so when we do the transition from 4 to 5, the body movement is different than once we're in 5. Is that right?
It is a little different because it's the transition and you don't have this part of the movement.
So once we kind of finish 4 and we start rounding the spine, so from the bottom of 4, basically, then we start a C curve. So, or no? Or is it? Don't think of it that way.
Don't think about C curve yet.
Okay. So, but we finish 4, then the hands come out and we start the transition and we keep sinking until we bring the energy up from the middle dantian to as high as it goes.
Yep.
And then as soon as we start rising, the energy should be dropping down the side channels.
Well, first it has to separate out to the side channels and down.
Okay.
Yes.
And then once you're in 5, now it's you get into the normal motion 5. Okay. And
the transition's a little different in that what happens is you first you have the condensing, and then instead of this part of the bend, you have this. It's the same bend of the body, but it's a different arm movement. It's just the transition. Yeah. Okay.
Once we're in 5, how much sync should you save for where the hands first come together at the Longong points with your dantian? And how much should you save for bringing the energy up? Is that half of whatever you're going to do, or don't think about it that hard?
I would say don't think about it that hard.
Okay.
Probably is a good. You're trying to pinpoint the categories.
Yeah,
of
give me the
movement.
map, David.
The map is what you feel in your body.
Okay, I gotcha. All right.
Which is what makes this a little,
Yeah.
you know, we're not doing basic Jacob work here. We're beginning to move into more, at least intermediate level. Believe me, advanced is still ahead.
Oh, boy.
Other questions?
I do, David. I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's about the arms going out. I think I was trying to concentrate on that 30%. And I felt very spherical. So I noticed that. But when I look at you from, at least on the computer, it looks like your arms are far more stretched out than I thought you were telling us to do. Could you clarify that?
So I thought you were far too limp in your arms. When
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked. They didn't feel limp, but I'm still trying to get the feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
So absolutely, you're trying to be aware of the, I don't know if this is a word, the sphericality of the movement.
Yeah, I got you. I know what you mean. Yes, and I very much felt that, yes, uh-huh.
And so notice that when I do that, that the arms are going forward here,
Uh-huh.
and then they're going more towards the side. They're not fully at the side yet. When we do 6, ideally the arms go clear to the side, but here they're just a little bit forward.
Okay, uh-huh, yeah,
So the movement is,
yep, yeah, that's what I'm aiming for, right?
yeah,
Okay,
that's where your sphere is.
okay, yep,
That's
Okay.
where the front part of your sphere is.
yes.
Remember that it also extends behind you.
Yeah.
Question?
Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
I would like everybody to just do that a couple more times.
Sure.
Bill, you need to think about continuing to sink and twist in after the hands cross. Because
I
that's
was
when
thinking
you're-
that, I wasn't doing that.
Okay, as long as you are clear about it in your head, you can work on it. If
All right, yeah.
Nick, you look much better. Thank you. That's better, Joanne. Good, okay.
David, does it matter which hand is on the outside?
No. Whatever feels right to you. Better?
Yeah,
Getting there.
yeah.
Okay.
When you're coming up, the elbows, should they be coming in as much as possible, or?
So what are you doing at that point?
Pulling it up?
Here, yes, the elbow should be coming in.
Yeah,
Then
okay.
we're going out.
Just at the release point.
Yeah, transition. Okay?
Listen to me.
Right. Um, as you're doing this, you want to feel your hands sending the chi down the left and right channels and to the bottom of your feet. And then you begin to close again and pull the energy into your qua and the lower dantian and up the central channel. Energetically, you're trying to pull the energy through your neck to the crown of your head. And in the beginning, don't be too concerned about getting it all the way there. As you practice, the energy generally will begin to rise to the crown of your head. So, any other questions on that at the moment? Okay. So the C curve. Yeah, this is for Adam. So what's happening in your lower dantian is effectively what you want to be doing with your spine. So this is going to be an introduction to it. And later on, when we get to the full thing, the spine goes up to the back of the skull and right down to the base of the sternum. In traditional Chinese medicine, actually, the spine is thought of as going right up to the top of the skull. And then, I need more of this. Then there is the middle of that spine somewhere in the middle of your torso. So Adam and Joanne have worked on the C curve before, but I don't think the other three of you have. And we've talked I just touched on this a little bit. But when we think about this, we know where the top of the spine is and the bottom. Somewhere in the middle, we want to have a sense of it being the middle. And we're going to have the pelvis tuck and the head go forward simultaneously. So it's as if the two of them are trying to reach that middle point. And one of the things to be aware of is that when we're doing the movement with the pelvis, we're not thrusting the pelvis forward. It's actually tucking under so that it goes slightly forward. And the head is also going to go slightly forward. The movement is going to be the two of them happening simultaneously, bending and straightening. Okay? So Your head is very heavy and it's constantly pulling on your spine. But then again, so is your pelvis. Your pelvis weighs a lot and it is also constantly pulling on your spine. So what you're trying to do is to find the equilibrium between the head and the pelvis moving, because that will then shoot the maximum amount of energy up and down your spine. Now we have a question. How do you feel your spine? Maybe you feel it really well, in which case you maybe won't really need this. But let's say you don't. In that case, you want to practice bending or tucking your pelvis first. Eventually, you want to make the bottom of your spine come up and your head and the top go down simultaneously. So what I want you to do is to stand up, go into your kind of basic standing position. Remember that you want to have allowed the quad to slightly relax so you drop to your base level. And when you're practicing this at home, you want to really give yourself time to settle into this, to allow you to extend your mind through your body. And then as you're standing, you're going to start from the top of your head and do outer dissolving along your spine. Now, you don't have to take an hour to do this. But spend some time so that you can get somewhat of a clear feeling of what these different parts of your spine feel like. So that it's not in your mind, am I feeling it or not? This can really help you know what's going on. So outer dissolving, ice, water, water to gas. And start going all the way down your spine to your sacrum, the tailbone. And whenever you get all the way down to your tailbone, dissolve up your spine to the crown of your head. And then you take the edge of one hand and put it somewhere where you think the middle of your spine is. So placing it in front, not in back, put it in front. Remember that the upper part, when we do the C curve, the upper part is going to go down, your pelvis is going to go up, which will stretch your spine until those two meet in the middle. The pressure of the spine going down will end up in the middle, and the pressure of the spine going up will end in the middle. So now you want to start to stretch your spine like the bow in a bow and arrow. You made the bow bend, and now you want to make it straighten. So at the moment, we're not going to do the whole bow. What we want to do is just to stretch the pelvis. So sinking slightly, let your pelvis tuck under and feel that energy rising. Feel your lower spine stretch. And let the energy shoot towards the floor in your legs. Feel your spine being stretched, even if it's just a tiny bit at this point. And then slowly straighten your pelvis. Do that once more. Tuck your pelvis under. Feel it going forward. Feeling the energy drop. And then straighten. And now this time, I want you to bend both the top and the bottom. So having this sense of an equal bend in both directions from both points. And then leave the top bent and just straighten your pelvis. And then straighten your head. And do that once more, just really getting the feeling of the difference between the two to begin with. Straighten your spine. Feel it like it's going right to the crown of your head. Now relax for a moment. So one of the really important tricks here is that you don't want your head to go back. You want it to go up. Generally, people try to straighten by pushing their head back. And in martial arts, that's a very old technique that's used when someone grabs you from behind, you hit them with the back of your head. But no, that's not what we're doing. So keep in mind, the metaphor for this is bend the bow and shoot the arrow. An arrow goes straight. It doesn't wiggle all over the place and definitely does not go backward. So the problem is that very often when people do this bend, and when they straighten up, they straighten the top by pushing the head back, which will tend to lift the chin and actually begin to create a blockage in the neck. You want to feel as you go up that the head is going straight up, not back. I know Adam and Joanne have looked at this before, but good thing to be reminded of. So as you practice this, try it again. As you are raising your spine, have the sense of pushing the crown of your head straight up. And that is correct. What's incorrect is to straighten your spine and have your head go backwards. So what you're trying to do is to get both of these parts to bend together and to straighten together. Bending from the crown of your head as your pelvis tucks under. And then the top goes up to the crown of your head and the bottom goes straight to your feet. You're stretching the spine along two planes of action. What you're looking for, that when you come up, you want to have the sense of your perineum going straight down to the ground. If you do that, your tailbone will come back to a straight position. Your perineum is going down to the ground, and that's penetrating your legs and causing your legs to straighten. Most people are not used to relating to their pelvis from the perineum, from the floor of their pelvis. They relate to their hips. They don't relate to what's on the bottom. But if you talk about the whole pelvis moving, it can only move from the bottom because everything's on top of it. So we want those 2 points to end up going absolutely straight. So really thinking about that as you do this, that when you go into this C curve, that your perineum is going to go straight down as the crown of your head goes straight up. So what I'm seeing is it looks like everybody's getting a little bit of the pelvis moving pretty well, but the head looks to be like we've got some issues. That's fine. So, as I've mentioned before, when your spine straightens, your head does not go back. But what makes this very tricky is the neck. If you talk about bending and straightening the neck from the large vertebra at the base of the neck, C7, that's not too hard because it's big. But getting the head to rise straight up to the crown of the head is something people are not used to. What people are much more used to doing is having their head go backwards to straighten the neck. And while that kind of movement is good for some things, in terms of getting the chi to penetrate from your central channel through the center of your brain to Bai Hui, it's not the best method. It's not going to cause any harm, but it's not going to have very much benefit either. So we've mentioned this crane neck, which is a common term in China because there are lots of cranes. And when you think about a crane, it has a very graceful bend to its neck. So what is it about this that is helpful? Number one, that when you're bending or going down, you have to put your attention on the back of your vertebra, on the posterior side of your vertebra. When you go up, you have to put your attention on the front of your vertebra. And we will go into this in more detail later on as part of a more advanced part of the training. But for now, we can start with the beginning. So let's do another practice and focus. Good. And focus on principally the neck. So start as we did before by just standing and really extending your mind through your body. So you really can begin to feel what's happening inside your body. And focus on beginning to get a sense of where the vertebrae are in the front of your body. So the front side of your spine, the part of the spine we don't often think about because we don't see it. The basic thing to understand about your spine when doing Gods is that you will need to activate both the anterior and the posterior sides. The spine basically does two giant things. It bends. If your spine didn't bend, then you couldn't sit down in a chair. Your spine is what allows you to do that. So one is the ability to bend. If you want to pick up something from the floor, your spine has to bend. But the second thing is that the anterior part of the spine is more responsible for sending strength into your arms and legs. And we need strength. If you don't have enough nerve flow from your spine to your legs, you will have trouble walking. You definitely will not be able to do sports. And there will be 1,000,001 things you definitely won't be able to do. So the vertebrae in the front of your body are where your body derives strength. The back part of your body is where your body develops flexibility. And you need both in life. Another point is that when you're bending your head, to do this, you do not want to compress your throat. So I demonstrated this the other day, and I want you to do this. Place a hand or your arm in your throat, and just let your head drop forward. and feel how it constricts your breathing. And if you were to speak, it will limit your speech. However, you go back and you think first of extending your neck up and then forward. You will not have any problem. No problem talking, nor will it cause any problems or pressure on your windpipe. The only way that can happen is if the vertebrae in the front of your throat stretch, and then the ones in the back help it to bend. They stretch, and that creates the space so that your neck has no pressure. This is a crane neck. So really, you're thinking about extending the head up first, releasing those vertebrae in the front of the neck, the anterior side of the spine, and then bending. And that comes more from the posterior side of the spine. And then when you straighten, you want that head to go up, not back. So try that again. So neck, try that. Extend up and bend forward. Just the neck.
Want me to stand sideways?
Yeah, good. Thank you. So don't lead with the chin. You want the top of the head to go up and then to go forward. So you're actually bending the neck, not thrusting the chin forward. No, you're thrusting the chin. So after you extend up, you want to allow the neck to bend. So it's just like if you were just going to bend the neck forward, but now we're doing that extension first. That's better. Yep, do the extension and then bend. Good. Just keep in mind that you don't want to lead with the chin. Okay. So Bill, that's looks like you're on track. When you have extended, think of the crown of the head going forward, not the chin. Good. That's better.
So when we're bending the head, how far forward does the head need to go to create that position?
So that's a very good question, actually. Oh, no, just a second, let me.
This is becoming the upper tip of the C.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, yes, it is. How far forward? You want the head to balance the pelvis. So the head can always bend a lot further than the pelvis can. That's always going to be an issue. So as you go into the full C curve, as the pelvis tucks, you want the head to extend and bend forward. And you want to have a sense of the two meeting in the center and being roughly equal as you can make it. And notice that the head does actually indeed bend forward. For those of you having problem with the chin going forward, we're not doing that into the bend. The chin isn't leading. The top of the head is. So it begins by going up and out. And you want to feel in the spine, both the top and the bottom having a sense of equal stretching in both directions. And then as you release that, it's kind of easy to focus on bending together, but once you arrived at that point, you have to find, how do I straighten both of those and complete both of those straightenings together? So it isn't that the pelvis finishes and then the head, or the head finishes and then the pelvis, but they both go absolutely together. They both complete at the same moment. That answer your question, Nick?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
So David, I'm feeling like as we're moving, leading with the crown of the head forward, we're opening. And then when we're straightening, we're also opening because we're thinking of connecting up as we move the crown of the head up. Both the C and the straightening feel expansive to me right now. Is that right?
There is an element of that, yes, in that as you go into the C, you're opening spaces in the vertebra in the back of the spine, the posterior part of the spine. And then ideally, as you straighten, you retain those spaces on the posterior side of the spine, and you open spaces between the vertebra in the anterior side of the spine as you straighten. So yes, however, we're also opening and closing in this movement as we do it, but more in the rest of the body than in those specific movements of the spine. It is the spine that is causing a lot of it, but it is not, what the spine is doing is different than the opening and closing of the energy gates and cavities throughout the rest of the body.
Okay, so I'm thinking I might be like 6'1" after a couple of months of doing it.
I look forward to seeing that. Other questions? I think that's perhaps more than enough at the moment. So this
I
is,
don't have a question, but I have an observation, or I have I have something to say. Sure. So, and I think I say this and share this personally to make sure I'm thinking of it correctly, but also to share with the others, because I think Adam and I, as we talked about bending the bow, both had these kind of aha moments of what that meant, right? And so, as I understand it, the spine is the string of the bow. It is bent. The hand pulls back at the center. So we have to understand where our center is. The top of our head is one end of the string, and the bottom of our pelvis or of our spine is the other.
Mhm.
And so that's why when we think of it being needing to be equal, think about the string. You're not going to have a string that's moving, more at one end than the other, right? They have to be even because of being the string.
right.
So I think that to me, just to understand, because I didn't understand at first, bend the bow, but that to me, and that helps explain some of these other kind of questions. But there's a lot of other depth to it, I understand, but just, am I thinking right correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
you are. And that's absolutely correct. And it is part of the image here. Yes.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Good. I hadn't mentioned that yet, so I think that's good to let the other people hear that, Joanne. That was good.
Well, you say bend the bow, and I think, yeah, that's where, I mean, yeah, it took me a little while to grasp that, but yeah.
Good. Other questions or thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Have a good week. We'll see you next week. We'll continue this.
There's more.
Right. Thank you, David.
You're welcome, Bill. Take care. Say hi to Madeline.
Bye. I will. Bye-bye. Hi to Jane.
Okay. I'm still here.
No, I was getting a strange message on my computer.
Well, it's funny because early on, because I had my mic on. Bill writes,
I know.
Joanne, please
Bye, Bill.
mute.
Yeah, bye.
Joanne, please mute as speaker view keeps switching to you from David. I think that's because I would go, I'm my world affirming. Oh yeah, I get that. And then he sees me going, instead of you doing what he's trying to see.
Well,
Zoom life.
the joys of Zoom.
I'm getting to really hate it, but yeah, I'm going into the winter. I better reaccustom myself.
So, as we slightly shift gears here,
Yeah.
any particular questions? What if you've been able to practice this week? What's going on?
Well, last time we were I guess 2 times ago when I was here, we were working on the C curve in the form.
Right.
So I've been trying
Uh-huh.
to do that. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Although I think today it helped get a
Yeah.
little clarity. I think especially with straightening up out of the C curve. I think what you said about focusing on the perineum,
Mm,
I was finding keeping that focus really helped kind of anchor the movement.
Yep.
And help make you feel like your whole body was going up and down rather than just these 2 parts doing a thing. It kind of helped tie it all together.
yep. Good.
Yeah, I think that there's I'm thankful that we have an understanding of this, and I think we've done a lot of work on this and on the spine. But I do think there's a little bit more of a depth here that's like, like, right, the perineum and there's more that you are saying to kind of help strengthen my understanding and therefore the feeling.
Yeah. So indeed, I want to continue to look at the C curve in the form.
Okay.
Because that's very important, actually. And so being clear about doing it, and I think I've said this already, in the form, in lots of places, it is much subtler.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
much smaller. There is no time to do a big C curve,
Right. Yeah.
but there is time to stretch the spine and then shoot the arrow. And actually, in terms of Tai Chi, bend the bow, shoot the arrow is obviously talking not only about the string straightening, but sending the arrow of your energy straight.
Yes.
So I guess what I'd like is to try to let me see where you are with this.
Okay.
Yeah, my right leg is feeling that last hour.
Okay.
What I was able to do a little bit more this week was a little bit more trying to stand, just particularly on the right leg, which is still a challenge. And right now I'm not able to because I put my heart and soul into the last hour. Both my legs.
It's okay, Joanne. I understand. I'm just sorry you're having such an issue.
It's getting better. I think at this point I realize that the veins in the right leg are as much a problem as the knee, perhaps. So
wow.
Because I have bad varicose veins, which I've never really dealt with very much, and I think that's a big piece of this. So that's the next step. Is yes, I'm getting those heavy stockings are on the way.
I've been wearing them for years.
Huh?
I've been wearing them for years.
Oh yeah, have you? Yeah. So I think that will help. Yeah.
Also, I wish Master Joe were still alive. He got rid of his varicose veins through practice.
Interesting, but you don't know exactly
what those. I don't know what he did. No. So I'd love to know.
Yes.
But that one, I don't know. And I've never asked Jay. He's the only person I know who might know. I suppose what's her name might know also, but he did a lot of personal practice using energy that I don't think he ever fully communicated, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we'll let Adam
okay yes
the C curve.
I can still learn from this process. Yep.
Okay, so, I see, it comes and goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, So when it, when it goes, why? Do you have any sense of that?
I feel like it goes the most when I'm standing on one leg or in transitions. It feels like the pelvis was doing what you said not to do in the beginning of the last class, where it's really kind of like thrusting forward rather than dropping down and tucking under. Because I feel like there's kind of a rock of the pelvis there, but like energetically everything kind of just turns off.
Yeah.
Um,
The interesting thing is I don't know that I have any really good, there are no tricks or quick fixes except really slowing everything way down.
Okay.
I mean, way down, thinking about taking an hour to do the long form. So that kind of a pace,
Okay.
so that you really have time to feel it as you go along. Because it's really hard to do it when there are places where it changes very rapidly.
Yeah.
And there are places where it changes slowly. In places where it changes rapidly, it's hard to really develop the clear feeling of it if you're moving too fast through there.
Okay.
So the other thing is to try to be clear about getting those two parts to move simultaneously. Yeah, what I'm seeing is the head. I'm getting a lot of head movement, but the pelvis isn't always there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel like it's tough because like you were saying before, there's just not a lot of movement to be had with the pelvis. Where it is so subtle that now that we're breaking it over these larger movements, it is tough.
Yeah. It's much easier in the Yang style, actually.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
And there would be nothing wrong with going back and playing a little bit of the Yang style to practice this, because it's just more time. And
Yeah.
and slow that down.
What's it?
But that's another way to approach it, is to look at it in there. I don't, it's one of those things that there's no
easy answer.
easy answer.
Just a lot of practice.
Right.
And continuing to practice it in things like Gods, where actually, and we haven't certainly begun to look at that, but it's present in every posture in Gods.
Mhm.
We definitely need it in 5 and 6, but it's also present in all the rest of the postures. And easier, really, in the other postures, because you have the full range of motion. So, particularly for the two of you, you can play more with that,
Mhm.
whereas The other guys are all really just trying to learn that
Mhm.
particular piece.
One thing that might help, when you start the form, what's the neutral
Mm,
position? Because I'm finding working on the C spine is making me more aware of the pelvis and the spine. It almost feels like I'm always almost too relaxed and too tucked in. I don't know, if I'm just kind of like a lot of people stand and they have that prominent like lordosis
Mhm,
where their rump side is sticking way out and they got that big arc in their back.
mhm.
I almost feel like I have kind of the opposite where it's just like it's all totally slack and collapsed. So I'm finding it's tough to come up with more sink in the pelvis to get that tuck without pushing the pelvis forward.
Yeah,
Makes
so,
sense?
so trying to find how do you tuck it and not thrust.
Yes.
I hear you. In the tuck, the C curve begins right from the beginning.
Yep.
And that's and right away it's into one leg.
Mhm.
So that you are already tucked at this point.
mhm.
Now it's coming, you're straightening out all the way through that first part up to G. And then indeed, as you go forward, you have to try to tuck again.
Mhm.
And that's uh-huh. Yeah.
I think, just right there, it kind of felt like that the body movement is not as far of a shift as it has always felt like once you start tucking.
Yeah.
It kind of changes the way your weight,
Yeah,
your feet, and where
Yep.
your point of balance is.
Absolutely.
right.
So I wonder if that playing with that helps get
Yeah.
more of that tuck, more of the C spine in there because I think I'm used to going where I used to go,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
this is kind of changing everything.
Because if you're just going forward,
Mhm.
that it's just a forward movement.
Right.
Right.
But if from this, there has to be the tuck of the spine as you do that, and then an opening of the spine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Way too much.
It's coming.
I guess the other part is it feels a lot more like you're getting a lot more feedback from the muscles in the back, getting stretched and flexed as you try and relax.
Yeah.
So
And so, certainly there's I think a necessary period of time where those muscles have to get used to having this happening,
right,
and so that they don't tighten up.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially in the lower back, everything that goes from the lower back down through the whole pelvic girdle into
Yeah.
your legs, like you kind of get a new awareness of those muscles.
And that's also why that has to be really subtle, because that's where you can overdo.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
Also, just passing note.
Yeah.
When you go into white boots, remember that it's 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
It's not one.
Okay.
Sure. It has, and actually, that's a development of the C curve too.
Hmm.
So it's
Mhm.
it's opening all the way through that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And just one thing that I found, because we were doing the first paragraph of this when I hurt myself, is finding like, where do I really feel it and understand it? Like play peepaw is the most obvious, and then trying to carry it from there. So then it's easier to carry it into Rooster. It's just kind of
Hmm.
trying to get, this is what it's supposed to be. And then
Yeah.
and then just trying to keep that going, because it is a little hard. I did figure out, yeah, you're right at the beginning, but from play peepaw on, and then I was able to go back to the beginning and then begin to, yeah, just get that feel more. So you know when you're not doing, so I know when I'm not doing it right, because I'm not getting that feeling anymore, right? And it is, you're right, it's hard because it's so subtle for some of them.
Yeah.
So subtle, but I keep thinking of that string.
It is more in this. It's more a feeling than it is a physical movement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, so you get the feeling when there is the physical movement, like play peepaw, and then try to carry that feeling into the much more subtle
Yeah.
postures. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Good seeing you, Joanne.
You too, Adam. Yeah, everything's going okay?
As good as it gets in the hospital world.
I get my booster tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah, I get mine next week.
The
Good.
day after, whatever. I got my text from Hartford Healthcare, make an appointment. I dropped everything, made the appointment right on my phone. So I'm all
Cool.
set. So,
Great.
Good.
yeah. And hopefully the grandkids will get it soon, and then we'll all be protected.
Keep moving forward.
Moving forward.
Yes.
Let's run those
Yeah,
masks
I
away.
know. All right, David. Good class. See you next week. Bye, Joanne.
Have a
All
good.
right. Bye-bye, Adam. Take
Thanks.
care.
Oh, well.
Hang in there.
Yeah, just one thing at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's our lesson, isn't it?
That's it. Well, I just keep telling myself I'm not responsible for other people's emotions.
That's right.
People are 50 years old. They know the rules of the game at this point, right? Or they should.
They should.
They should. That's all right.
Adam, just remember, you're more mature than they are.
I guess so. Seems bizarre because I don't know. I'm not that mature, David.
Yeah, I know.
All right, take care.
You too, Adam.